Thank you, Jared, for hitting the record button. Can you guys see my?
I think that was Danae, so we'll thank her.
Thank you, Danae. And I'm having that same problem. I cannot. Oh, if you guys can see the links that I have there, we have some helpful links. The first one is how to get to Qualtrics, and make sure that you are sorry. Make sure going to Qualtrics, the version of Qualtrics that is Ohio State. If you just go to the free version of set up some surveys, and then it's going to be set up in the free version of Qualtrics, and you won't have as many capabilities in that version. The next link is on the, I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off. I keep getting, okay. The next link is the Qualtrics blog. If you need some information on from the blog, it's u.osu.edu/Qualtrics, and you can find some question and answers, and that's the Ohio State Qualtrics blog. And then if you need to request an upgrade code for the CFA Yes Qualtrics, you can request that from me. Just email me at lewis.205@osu.edu. And we're just going to go ahead, and I'm going to do a new share here. Now I can open up my chat.
Debbie, I have a question. How do we know if we need an upgrade code?
I will show you that here in just a second. Can you see my Qualtrics now?
No, we can't, Debbie.
I'm not getting head nods or anything.
Now we are.
There we
Okay.
go. There it is.
Let me try that again. Okay.
It's up now.
So I apologize again for the really slow connection. I think my husband is downstairs on a meeting as well, so that's slowing down our connection even more. Anyway, so this is Qualtrics. I am over in one of my folders because I have a lot of surveys in my account. But if you do that link, go.osu.edu/Qualtrics, you will make sure that you are in your the OSU version of Qualtrics. Everybody at the university as employees has, when they first start working, you will have be given a student trial account. You will need to upgrade that account. If you're an FCS, you might already have been upgraded by EHE. Somebody over in the College of Education and Human Ecology may have already upgraded your account. The easiest way I know to try to figure out, you used to be able to look at your account settings over here on the right-hand side of Qualtrics and tell what level of account you have, but they don't show that to you anymore. So the easiest way, I think, to see if you have a student trial or an upgraded version is, one, you can email me, but if you want to figure it out for yourself, you can look on your survey once you've opened up a survey or when you're creating a survey. If you do not have this distributions tab up here in the upper left-hand corner, then you probably still have a student trial account. The other thing you will figure out, if you have done if you still have your student trial version, you won't be able to add any more than 25 questions to a survey, okay? So people can still share with you or collaborate on a survey with you if you have a student trial account, but you will have more capabilities with the standard account. When you ask for the upgrade code, I will send you some instructions. You just type that upgrade code in there. You would go to your account settings page, and there is a tab up here where it says upgrade account. you just copy paste that upgrade code into this box right here and click on upgrade account. Now, the thing with the upgrading your account, you won't be able to see right away whether or not your account has been upgraded. You might need to log out of Qualtrics and log back in, or you can come up here again over to the upper right-hand corner and click on refresh account. That might work for you, but that's the first thing you kind of want to do is make sure you upgrade your account. If you're working with multiple people in your office and you're trying to share one survey, it's a good idea to upgrade your account or make sure the people in your office have their account upgraded before you share that survey with them. Just navigating around in Qualtrics, I've shown you a couple times this link over here in the upper right-hand corner where you can view your account settings, etc. Across the top, you're going to have these links as well, except you will not have this admin link, but you can look at your list of surveys by clicking on projects. You can look at your contact list and these contacts are like your address book. If you have set up an address book for a survey, you can find it here. This is the library where you can find if you have written any email invitations or email reminders, etc. If you wrote a end of survey message, you can find that here in your library. So I'm going to switch back to my projects. Okay. So the first thing we wanted to show you today while this thing is loading was the possibility of a registration survey. And since there's no face-to-face interaction with our presentations or our programs right now, I've created a template for registration with no fee. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. If you are creating a brand new project, you can go back to that projects page and click on a button that says create a new project. But since I already have one of these, I'm going to do it this way. You can also, if someone has shared a survey with you, like someone in a different county is doing a registration for a similar type of program, you can ask them to collaborate with you. And then you can copy that survey that they collaborate with you. Try not to, if they collaborate with you, try not to change their survey in any way, because you will change it for the people that are using it and that are currently giving some survey or answering responses on that survey. Okay. When you're setting up a registration template, and I can share the template and you can copy it from that library. But you would, of course, put the title of whatever the workshop is, the webinar, the program, give the date and time. Then I would recommend putting some basic information and other types of details. For example, when they will get a Zoom link, since this is for, a webinar, when they'll get a Zoom link and where they can get additional information, if they can contact you or an office support staff person, whoever that might be, and then how long do they have to register? So put a date in here for how long they have to register for. This first question type up here at the top, and Brian's going to go into question types again a little bit tomorrow. But notice over here on the right-hand side, when I'm clicked on this question, you can see that it's grayed out. And over here on the right, you can see that this is a text graphic question. So in other words, nobody is going to give you, nobody's going to be able to answer this question because it's just purely for information. It's not a question that's asking for something back. Thomas, you just asked the question, how do we know if we have a trial version of Qualtrics? Again, that distribution tab up here in the very top will not be there. And or you cannot add more than 25 questions to your survey. This next question I have on here is a text entry questions. I have seen a lot of people ask for this information, and they will ask for this in separate questions. So I'm asking for contact information here. So the type of question I've with is a text entry question. And I've selected down here under text type, I've selected form. This way, all of these responses will be in a single question. It takes up less space on your screen. So it's easier for a person to respond in a smaller amount of space, and they don't have to scroll down their screen, which helps for if a person is responding on their cell phone or an iPad, it just takes up a little less screen space. You can see here I've asked for a first name, a last name, email address, and a phone number. I've also made this a required question. You can see that over here because it's got a little asterisk. That means it's got some validation in it, but also the validation options I've asked for a forced response. That way they can't leave this page without giving me their name and email address. And phone number would be just for like an emergency contact if you need to contact people and you don't have time to email them, or you need to. So that's the forced response. That means they can't leave that page without answering those questions. I wanted to show you over here. You can ask for, make sure that they are replying with a valid email address and a valid phone number. Anytime you're using this form field, text entry type of question, if you just click here where it says click here to edit form fields, see how that changed my screen? Now I can see all my, my fields here that I'm asking them to respond to. But over here on this side, I can also set up a validation. So in other words, for this email, I want to make sure they're giving me a valid email address. So when I click on this drop down, I have several different options here. I'm going to add a valid email address. For phone number, I can do the same thing. You can see I've selected, I need a valid US phone number. You have some other options here, Canadian, UK. So there's several different options on that one as well. To get back to my preview mode, I just toggle back by clicking. Now let's see if I've decided that I wanted to ask them something else for registration information that has to do with their contact information. So for example, after last name, I want to insert a field. So all I'm doing is going to the end of the last name field. I'm going to hit my enter key and it creates a new field for me. So here I can say full name for name tag. And since we're not doing things in person right now, you probably wouldn't use this type of thing. I wanted to show you that you can insert. Also, if you wanted this to appear at the end, you just come over here to the little drop down next to the field name, and you can move it up or down, or you can just remove the field. Also, this display box on the screen is not as wide as my other entries. So just like any other thing, when you have that double arrow, when you hover over the right-hand side, you can drag it and make it the same width as your other fields. And that's just aesthetics, so it looks the same. This is a question. Let's say you're offering a workshop that you're offering the same topic, but you're going to do it at two different dates, on two different dates. Okay, but you wanted to use the same registration survey to be able to register for either date. With this type of question, you can ask them to respond. With this one, they can only select one response. See how it says a multiple choice question is my question type over here. And it's a single answer. If I would allow them to answer more than one, I could just select multiple answer, and then they can select more than one response here. So here I've come up with, I have two different dates that I'm going to be offering the same material. And then I've also enabled a or put a response here. I'm unable to attend, but I would like an access to a recording. So especially if you are recording that, your webinar or whatever that workshop is going to be, I would say offer that option if it's going to be recorded. The next question I have here would be pertinent is if you are using this for an in-person workshop and you're providing food. So this question type is another text entry, but I've only asked for a single line. Remember before when we were asking for the contact information, I asked using the form instead of the single line. So list required dietary needs. And again, if you are going to have an in-person workshop where you're going to be offering food, make sure you ask this question. You'll see here that I've added a note to this. Please ask this question if the workshop is in person and you will provide food. The respondent will not be able to see this note. So this comes in really handy when you are working with multiple people on one survey and you want to give some feedback about a question. The respondents will never see these notes here. And you can do that by clicking on the question, and the one you want to add the note to, just come over here again on the menu for this question is on the right hand side. And you would just click on this add a note. Type in what you want, and then click on post. And that way, whoever you have collaborated with on this survey will see your notes, and then they can respond to your notes. And again, no one but the people that are collaborating on this survey will see these notes. This is another question that we'd like you to add if your workshop is going to be in person. It's another text entry question where I've asked for a single line response. And this is to ask for additional accommodations. And this might be, I need a sign language interpreter. You can see an example here is wheelchair accessibility, etc. So again, if this is in person, you definitely need to be asking about additional accommodations. So questions so far about this top section? You can unmute yourself and ask live, or you can, was able to get the chat box. So if you want to type it in chat. Okay.
So Debbie, what's the max for
next section?
Hey Debbie.
Yes, go ahead.
What's the max? So let's say that you're doing this. What's the max number of people that you can survey if you use the university's platform?
This is for a registration survey. So what I'm recommending with this one is that you would use a general URL to distribute it, and probably use Go links to make the URL shortened. If you're going to be able to paste it into, well, right now you'll be pasting it into an email. But this is for a general URL. So there is no limit on the number of responses that you can get. Now, on the other hand, if you're surveying a large group of people, we do at the university level have a maximum of 10,000. So I'm assuming that we're not going to hit that, but with the increased demand in Qualtrics right now, you might want to make sure that we're not exceeding that quota. So if you have a very large group of people, like say more than 1,000 people that you want to distribute a survey for, then make sure you go ahead and contact me beforehand so that I can contact the brand team and make sure that that we haven't exceeded those limits, or there's nobody else out there with a high volume request. So I'm not sure who asked it question, but good question.
So we could actually use this for survey, registration, all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Yes, and Brian Butler is going to get into it more tomorrow. We're going to have the same kind of, we're still working in Qualtrics tomorrow, but it will be, he's going to be talking about survey evaluation. Okay?
Thank you.
Like evaluation using surveys. All right. So the next set of questions I have here are Reg data. And I've created a block of these questions, and I've just taken it right off of that single response page for collecting Reg data. This information is right off the top of that form. And again, this question type is the text graphic, so they can't actually respond to this question that are on that form. And again, we have the response prefer not to answer. So if they don't want to answer that question, they can select that response, prefer not to answer. I've also included those, the age, the veteran status, and disability, because again, we can put this information into Vita. Like if you have your audience is youth, they would be responding to the 17 and younger. If they're older, anybody in the category of, I believe Jeff McCutcheon was saying is one of our protected age categories, are in these 8 older age categories, these last 3. Then you can put them in Vita. You can say that this is either an underserved population, or it might be, you know, that type of population, and you can put those numbers into Vita. Same thing with veteran status or disability status. And then here at the bottom, I just have some quick information for the person who's completing it. Thank you for taking the time to register, a follow-up email, and you can change any of this information. But I do recommend telling them to make sure they click the button below so they submit their registration. So I don't want to make you seasick here, but the next thing that's really nice about Qualtrics is you can preview this survey. So if you want to see what this is going to look like, you just click this little preview button in the upper right-hand corner. And if I did that a little too fast, let me see if I can go back and do it again. So this preview button right here will allow you to preview the survey. And it's like on the web and on a cell phone. If you don't want to see what the cell phone looks like, you can close this pane. And you can open back up if you want. All right, so you can see what the questionnaire or the registration survey is going to look like. Again, this was just a template, but this is what the respondent is going to see. I can click on the next button here to get to the next page, and you'll notice that I haven't filled these questions in. So it's not going to, I believe you have to fill in everything. I can't just skip something. So let's test this one. There is a Lewis.20. And then I have a phone number. Okay, see how it's telling me that I can't go on until I've entered a valid email address, to be able to make sure that you have that validation on there so you're getting real email addresses. So what it's checking for is that there is some text, there's an @ symbol, and then there's afterward. So I had a space in between my @ symbol and my domain name, so it didn't register as a didn't validate as a real email address. So it should let me go on now. This has the reg data. These are not required questions. I'm just going to go ahead and skip these. And then there's my last page where it says, thanks for taking the time, click the submit button below. Oops, you can see I copied one. All right. So that's an in-survey message that you can use. So some of the things that I want you to become aware of for accessibility purposes, make sure you visit, for example, the look and feel up here for a survey. This is where you can insert text for your next and previous buttons, because usually this is an arrow, either a right arrow or a left arrow, and screen readers can read those. So make sure you put, for the next button, I just put next. For the previous button, I put previous. And that's pretty much all I do to my look and feel of the survey. To make sure that, especially if you have a multi-page survey, that you've turned on this back button. That way, if a person has responded to one of your questions and then changes their mind and wants to change their answer, if you haven't enabled the back button, then they cannot get back and change their answer. As a default, that is not turned on. I have said that I was going to distribute this as an open access, but you also have the option to distribute it by invitation and write up an email invitation and send it out using that. But for this type of are going to be registering for it. Again, I apologize for my slow internet connection. Okay, and then if I want to distribute this, I come up here on the distributions tab, and again, if you have a student trial account here still, you won't have this distributions tab. But if I click on distributions, it's going to enable me to distribute it in several different ways as soon as it catches up. So I can distribute this for email, and you would use this if you have individual email addresses, then I recommend using this distribution. You get, generally, research shows us that you get a higher response rate if they have a personalized email invitation to respond to your survey. So it's nice to use this email distribution if you have their individual email addresses. You cannot use the email distribution if you have just a listserv. Like I couldn't use the email distribution to send to all extension. I'd have to send to their individual email addresses of the members that are on all extension. So this one we're going to use distributing, use the web to distribute. So I'm going to click on that button that says create a anonymous link. And then this is going to be the link. You can customize the link. So if I just call that OSU eReg, it's going to take me to that survey. You can see here, I just went back to the survey tab. Sorry, does anybody else have questions? Are there templates on for previously created? So what I've done, since I'm a CFAES anyway, I've created a copy of this survey, and I'm going to put it into a library. So I'm going to click up here and I'll show you how you can access this survey. I have to add you to my group, but I do have some surveys in here that are in a library. These are the surveys that I have in libraries. Okay, so here's this registration survey. I also have created separate blocks for the reg data block and the submit block, so you can use those as well. So if I wanted to come over here to this library, and this is the library we called OSU Extension. And you should be able to just snag this survey once I add it to the library. Okay. And I just did that this morning, so it's not showing up in that library. Okay. I'm going to go back to that survey because I wanted to show you one more link, because we are going to be using the data, or we're going to be looking at some registration data on Thursday in Excel. So the other tab you might use in a survey is the data and analysis tab. I'm going to answer some other questions that are in here.
Yeah, Debbie.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you just had one come in that asked,
Go ahead,
like,
Jared.
on the last example you were showing, like if they signed up for session 1, could they change their answer to session 2 somehow?
After they have submitted their response, no, they wouldn't be able to, because we have not distributed this using an individualized link. But they could contact you and let you know that they need to change their response. They could also just go in and resubmit the survey, but then you might get a little bit confused about which one they want to attend. So it's probably better if they contact you. So this survey, I don't have any responses yet. You can see here, I've clicked on the data analysis tab, export, import. And I just clicked on the export button, and then I can select either CSV or Excel. Either one will work in Excel. And then I can just click on the download button. But since I don't have any data in here, it's gonna, open up right away. Usually that takes a little bit more time. And then I can say open up with Windows Explorer, because whenever you download data from a survey, it's gonna go in a zipped file. All right, so we can't read that. Excel cannot read a zipped file, so you're going to have to unzip that file. So I'm going to go ahead and open this with Windows Explorer. Here it comes. Okay. So you to extract all, just click on that button in the upper right-hand corner there. And I'm just going to put this on my desktop, so it's a fast place to find it for me. You can also put it in your downloads folder. And then you'll open it in Excel. But like I said, I don't have any data in there, so it's not gonna show anything.
Debbie, we have another question that
Yep.
kind of goes back to the survey and the editing. Can you show how you created the first question, edited the text to center, and changed the colors?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And here's my data. It's not very pretty, but there's nothing here except a partial response that I was just doing. Okay. So when you're looking at the survey and you want to adjust the font style, because you'll see that the default template has a certain font. Click question, for example, you'll see that I have this in red font. When you click here, I'm clicking on the question text, which opened up a box. If I click Rich Content Editor, it will allow me to edit it just like I would. It's a WYSIWYG editor, so you can highlight any part of your text and you can change the color, you can change the bold, italicize, etc. So that's how you would edit that text to make it appear differently. In general, I tend to not, like if I'm just asking a question, I let the template use its default settings because Ohio State has branded it for our fonts and our colors, etc. So I don't tend to change that unless I'm trying to draw attention to something, which is what I did here with the title of the workshop. Because you can see right here, this is my file name. This is the name the server can actually see this registration template, no fee copy, okay? What you see is this. You are registering for title of the work survey. Is that what you were asking, Stacy?
Yeah, I knew how to do it, but I also knew that it took me a while to find it, so I thought it would be a good item to share.
Yeah. All right, and then Linda, you asked, when we send out a Qualtrics survey, the end survey message is usually detailed to that specific Qualtrics. Some way we can delete some of these. So what your default end of survey message is going to say is something very generic like, thank you for responding, your responses have been recorded, okay? So under the survey options, if you want to change that, I'm getting another message that I'm unstable, so I'm sorry, my internet is unstable. All right, down here in the survey on the survey options tab, this custom end of survey message, I could insert something here. Okay, so I can pick one of these or I can create a new message. I can even put on here, I can insert an email link. And then I can even put a subject line in there so that when a person clicks on that, they would see that email would pop open. You can also put email address next to it for those that don't click on links. Oh, I need to give a description for this. And then this is going to go into my library. You can also, from the survey options, set up a thank you email. So if you want to have registered something, there's another option down there to create a thank you. And you can use one of the questions that they've responded to. For example, if I want to send a message to whatever email address they used, I can do a send thank you email from library. But I think since I'm not using the mailer version of this, like I'm not using Qualtrics to email my survey, then I can't do that. But if you are using the email addresses to send to a specific list of people, then you can do that. Thank you. There's some other ways that you can adjust this so that they can get, as a person who registers, they can get an automated message using email triggers, but I think that's a little bit more involved. So if you want some help on that, you can contact me or Brian, and we can help you do that. The other thing I want you to be aware of is once you've published that survey or activate survey, make sure that you click on the publish button if you have made any changes. See this green button up here? Otherwise, those changes won't be pushed to the survey, and the people that are responding to your survey will be responding to the first draft. So I'm going to go ahead and click the publish button again, and you'll see that yellow message disappears. So going back here to this question type, I'm seeing a question about the single line versus the form. So these are text entry questions. The form just means that it's going to put all of these lines in a single question in a single page. Whereas this one just has one line. If I wanted this to be multi-line, this means that it will show more lines on the screen. So this one shows, if you select multi-line, it's going to show 3 lines on the screen instead of 1 line. If you select essay text box, it's going to be a really big box that shows up on. I'll change this one to multi-line, and I will change this one to essay text box, just so you guys can see the difference between the two. And then this one again was the form, because I'm asking multiple pieces of contact information at the same time. And I just want those to appear in one question. So when I click on the preview button again for this, I didn't publish it, so I don't know if it's actually going to show up. Again, this is the text entry question that uses the form fields. And I have multiple forms. This one is a multi-line text entry. And then this is the essay block text entry question style. You would use this if you're asking for a longer response. If you're asking them to, for example, tell me about your farm, tell me about yourself. If you're having an open text entry bottom on the page, then you're going to use that essay type instead of the single line. So other questions about these? I know it was kind of quick, but we're down to like 10 minutes.
Hey, Debbie.
Yes.
Hey, it's T. I would just encourage, Debbie mentioned to you all email triggers, and we certainly don't have time to go into those today, but she mentioned that, and then if you have questions, to let her or Brian know. That's a very useful feature in Qualtrics, especially when it comes to doing
yes, it is.
registration. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the recycle people are coming down the street.
No problem. And those email triggers can be both to you as the person, as the register, and I'm making up this word, and then back to the person who is registering, the registee. It can go both ways. Very useful feature.
Debbie, we've got a question about how to access the template. Can you remind everybody how we can find that template?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to put this in group, but I'm also going to show you just how to collaborate with someone, because if you're collaborating with multiple people in your office, it's nice to know how to do that. So give me just a second and I'll show you the collaboration, because that's one way to get a survey. So if I wanted to come over here, and Julie, what's your dot number? Crook dot 46. I did that kind of fast, but so I can do that. Go ahead and click on add. I'm not going to send her a message, but she'll get an email message that says she now has access to this template. The other way to access it will be through the OSU Extension Library that I'm creating a group for. But I got to that collaborate by over next to the ellipses, the 3 dots. Click there. You have several different options. So Julie, once you get a hold of that template, what I recommend anybody doing whenever they get a copy of a survey from someone that they want to implement in their own county with some changes that make it relevant for their county, make sure you copy the survey. So you would copy the project. But if you want to collaborate with someone else in your office and you all need to be be on the same survey, like have only one survey for multiple people, then you can click on the collaborate button.
Debbie, is it best practice to immediately rename that survey copy?
Yes, you will see, like if I clicked on copy project, it's going to allow you to copy this right here. So let me see if I can add this to, oh look, here's an OSU Extension Library. So it says registration template, no fee, copy. So I can just say this is, I can just take away the word copy, or I can say copy to. And then I can also add this to a folder if you have multiple folders, but you probably don't have a whole lot of surveys. So you won't need to add it to a separate folder, but that's where you're gonna be able to immediately change the name of that copy. So other questions? You'll notice that did not pop up on this one because I didn't add it to this folder that I have over here, but it will show up in my all projects eventually. Should you use an end date? I would recommend, if you noticed on that, the survey that we were looking at, the registration survey we were looking at, we gave them a date by which they should respond. So yes, I typically, especially when I'm sending it using an email invitation, I typically add, please respond by such and such a date. And you'll see here, please register by a certain date. That way you can make sure that they've responded. I typically do not put an automated end date in my survey though, but you can find that in a survey options. So there should be some place here where you can actually say, hey, the survey should inactivate on a certain date. I usually manage mine manually though. I don't enter like end of survey dates, which is why I'm having a minute right here. Survey expiration, that's where that is, sorry. Took me a minute. So survey expiration is where you can set up a specific date for the survey to close. But again, I usually manage those on my own. I don't use this option to pick a date that it will end. Other questions? All right. And again, Brian's going to be on tomorrow. He'll go into a little more detail on the different question types. I've shown you 3 or 4 here today. Just the text display, and you can put a graphic in there as well. I've shown you the text entry style question, and I've also shown you the multiple choice style question.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'll be covering 3 main things. One is a few more question types, like the matrix that we're going to be using a lot of. We're going to talk about how to send a link to individual email addresses. And then finally, we're going to look briefly at the reports function, how you can generate a really nice, quick report that summarizes all of your data into tables. And each one of those by itself is a multi-hour course. So we're going to do all of that in 1 hour. At least give you an idea of how to do them.
Jared, I like
So
your
again,
assistant.
the recording from today's session will be posted on the website that Jared shared earlier. We have a separate link for recorded trainings, and you can find it there.